direct from the airport is the woman of the hour, our own Faith Goldie, who has just returned from Quebec City. Faith, welcome back. Great work. Thanks for representing the Rebel and all our viewers out there.
Thanks. I appreciate it. You know, it wasn't an easy story to cover, and it's still ongoing, and there are a lot of questions that we have outstanding. And frankly, this has been one of the toughest stories that I've ever had to cover for the Rebel, insofar as the amount of online hate that I received, and you know, people telling me that there was blood on my hands, and that we at the Rebel incited this sort of violence. I've never experienced anything like it.
What were they saying? I mean, we went there to record things, to ask questions. How on earth what was their accusation?
I think that Kate Purchase set a really good tone when she told us that, you know, there is one official narrative and you're not allowed to ask questions outside of that. And what we are continuing to do, because this story is not even close to being done. I've come back to Toronto just hours ago, and not even, and I want to know more about the suspects. I want to know more about the victims. I want to know more about the suspect's family. I want to know what drives a guy to go from 0 to 10. A guy who has no priors, who has absolutely is not known to police whatsoever, did not post hateful things online. As far as we know, we have one pro-refugees group telling us that he was known to their Facebook group as being anti-feminist, anti-refugee. Really, where's the evidence?
Yeah.
I've reached out to several people. People are not willing to come onto the record with us to defend their remarks that paint this boy as some sort of a hateful bigot. So I'm asking questions that I think that every journalist would want answered, but instead I'm being told, do not challenge the narrative, and if you do, well, then you're part of the problem, and you are equivalent to people like the suspect here, and even Anders Breivik. I've had reporters from the Globe and Mail even comparing me to mass murderers.
That's unbelievable. Of course, we condemn a crime, and this is obviously a crime. Police have laid charges of murder and attempted murder. Curiously, they have not yet laid charges of terrorism.
That's right.
And even though the Prime Minister said both in a statement and on TV, and in the Parliament that it was terrorism, and Kate Purchase in her note to Fox called it terrorism, the police haven't made a terrorism charge. First of all, that's very interesting. I'm very curious. That's something that I think warrants more journalism. You're saying you ask these basic questions and you're called a hater. Why? What do you think this means? I mean, obviously we're in the realm of speculation here. To me, it means they just don't have any evidence that it was terrorism.
Right. So what the narrative that this young man was a terrorist comes from his likes on Facebook and some allegations that are not backed up by pro-refugee Facebook sites. So he liked Donald Trump, he liked Marine Le Pen, and so then the people connected the dots that he has political motives to going into a mosque and opening fire and killing 6 men who were there just peacefully praying. At the end of the day, and of course you've got a legal background much more robust than I ever have. I've taken a few law courses, but my understanding would be that you try to lay as many charges as possible and see what you can get away with, right? And so right now he's facing 6 charges of first-degree murder, 5 charges of attempted murder. And so my question is, why wouldn't you throw in the terror charges as well and see what sticks? And let's keep in mind, when the Prime Minister comes out and calls this an act of terrorism with the moments of this happening, when his whole inner circle is addressing it as such, what sort of judge and jury, how can we expect a fair trial going forward? And
it's from what a contrast, as Barbara Kay was just mentioning, when the Boston Marathon bombing happened. Trudeau's reflex was, no, misunderstood, don't jump to conclusions, he must have been excluded, root causes. But here, it's so curious. We don't have all the resources yet. Maybe in a year we will, to do a full-scale, on-the-ground investigation in the French language in a city in a different province. We just don't have the horsepower yet. It was great that our viewers chipped in to send you and a cameraman there for 2 days, and I think we did good work in those 2 days. In those 2 days alone, the main thing I learned is that there are real questions that all the rest of the media combined refuse to ask. It's almost like there's a publication ban issued from a court. But if a court had issued a publication ban, typically journalists challenge that in court and say, you can't tell us what to say. Here, the publication ban was voluntary.
That's right.
And
it's
self-imposed.
Exactly. You know, at the end of the day, this the suspect, we understand, turned himself into officers. I find it quite remarkable that he has yet to reveal his motive to officers.
Yeah, I mean, if you did something and then you call the cops, I did it, Okay, why did you do it? What do you want to say? Do you have a statement? Do you have a manifesto?
Breivik did that. He said, this is my shtick. This is why I did this heinous crime. We have not seen that from the suspect in this case. On top of that, we saw a media tour of the actual crime scene. We see footage of the gun holes, the bullet holes, and the blood splattered all over the place, which tells me, okay, then their investigation on the ground is closed.
Maybe, or they're just a sloppy crime scene. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I saw that too. They just had a tour of the crime scene. Yeah. Trampling evidence. Maybe the cops got in and got all their evidence. Things here look weird. I want to know how it takes 15 hours to take someone, and he surely didn't sleep a wink that night.
No.
If you saw a massacre, were arrested, called a suspect, you're not saying, okay, I'm going to go to bed now. You're up all night. The cops are talking to you all night, and in the morning they have their press conference. So it's 12, 15 hours later. And they call him a suspect. So they had made their determination. They weren't iffy.
Right.
So it took first 15 hours of information and evidence was enough for the cops to say, this is a suspect.
Yes.
And to say at a formal press conference. And then suddenly, oh, no. Sorry, we got that wrong, everybody. He's just a witness. Away he goes. And then the PMO says, nobody report that. Anyone who reported that, delete that. That's fake news. That makes this super weird. And that is not my conspiracy theories. That's not my speculation. That's me saying, what happened there, and what is the Prime Minister's office doing meddling in this?
This attack happened around 8 p.m. Sunday night. Between 9 and 10 was the police press conference. In the police press conference, they referred to them both as suspects, and when they were asked whether or not this was an act of terrorism, they said that both these suspects wanted to instill fear in people. So both these so you're confident enough to give that answer to people. So that's between 9 and 10. Fox News' tweet goes out at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Yeah. So sometime between 10 o'clock that we've got two suspects who wanted to strike fear into the minds and hearts of individuals, and 12:31 p.m. Eastern, everything was turned on its head. And it's not conspiracy theory. These are valid questions. Yeah. And I just don't get it. Ezra, we cover time and time again, media party spin, etc. But for me, I just don't get how we're really the only ones asking this. Yeah. I don't believe that we are. I believe that our viewers, and I believe a lot of other people, some of which who have reached out to me and just said, thanks for having the guts to ask these questions.
It's so weird. We're going to try our best to cover it from here. Obviously, if we were on the ground in French, we would be able to do some rooting around. What's interesting to me, and I'll close on this note, is I have some friends in Quebec City. There's actually a Quebec City conservative movement. Mm-hmm. There's a very strong talk show presence, liberty-loving, sense of humor kind of guys. Dominique Moret, Jeff Fillion, even our friend Eric Duhem. There's a great conservative tradition there, and they're worried about radical Islam, as the rest of us are. They went through this earlier in the reasonable accommodation debate over the hijab, 10 years before we did in English Canada. I see this as an excuse to crack down on those journalists.
Yes.
And again, we have the language barrier, so I'm going to try in the days ahead to reach out to my French buddies in Quebec and try and hear what's going on, because I think that they're going to be censored because of Islamophobia. And I think in English language, I think they're coming for us too. We know the Liberals hate us. They make that clear. I think they're going to use this as an excuse to shut us up. They can't shut us up, just by saying, oh, don't listen to those rebels anymore because we're bigger than that. I think they're going to try something legally. Do you think so? You report on M103.
Absolutely. We're the ones who brought it to the public attention. Then it was picked up in the Sun and the National Post thereafter. M103, this motion that aims to censor people for daring to offend the Prophet. I mean, it is Sharia creep. It is, in a way, blasphemy law, or at least in its emotion form. These are, when it comes to Quebec, it has a problem with radicalization. Laval, a town there, had to take its own measures outside of the province, outside of the country, to say we've got a problem. Young men are fleeing for Syria from our jurisdiction. That's why people on the right and otherwise, in common sense, liberals will say the same thing. They say, yeah, this is an issue in this province. We have to freely be able to criticize and say this is a problem, this isn't a problem. This is okay within the parameters of a liberal democratic society. What is unacceptable in the parameters of a liberal democratic society is censorship based on feelings and based on preferring one religion over another. And I know this is an attack in which 6 men were killed. I condemn this attack, but that doesn't mean I'm about to give up my liberty.
Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.